Hey everybody, this is Will. You are now listening to Five Guys Movies and Fries. We're going to be discussing Silence of the Lambs today, a movie that I have somehow failed to watch, even though I am the ripe old age of 34. Joining me is Knack.
Hello.
We've got Jeff with us.
The other one first.
We've got Molander with us.
Hey!
Hey, we fucked up the intro already. Great.
It's me!
We also have Jeff. Quick, go.
Yeah, hello.
And Joe.
How's it going?
It's going good. Thank you for asking.
I don't
Wait.
give a shit how you're doing.
Yeah, like I was saying, I have not seen this movie before, which is fucking wild. And it is fucking wild. This movie is fantastic.
Yeah, well, because you're not really a big horror guy, right?
No, I'm not the biggest into horror. When I was a kid, I may have walked into my parents not doing anything naughty. Definitely not that.
That's just turning you off on the wrong kind of movie. What the hell are you doing?
Oh no, trust me, I'm No, they were watching Tremors, and as a small child, that horrified the shit out of me. Even though I now know it's a comedy, which was the other choice that I was going to go with. But I figured, you know what, we should go with something actually classically horrific. So,
Tremors, you are a gem of the '90s.
Yes, that when we do comedy horror that week or that month or whatever, that'll be the pick. So, yeah, I don't know. Holy shit, this movie blew me away. Obviously, all the hype is real. Like, I knew going in, this movie was going to be fantastic, and lo and behold, it fucking was. But yeah, why don't you start us off, Joe? I'm interested to hear what Joe has to say about this movie.
I love it. I think it's well directed, well acted. Both Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor and Best Actress for this movie. The cinematography is great. There's so many good close-ups during the interviews and the conversations. It's an interesting mystery. I particularly love the scene where Hannibal Lecter escapes. I feel like it'd be really hard to film an old man outwitting and outpowering two young policemen. But this film manages to make that a believable scene. It's because Hannibal Lecter is a genius, which is kind of a problem with the movie, because most serial killers aren't geniuses. That's one of the things I don't like about it. The other is it's a little problematic in how it treats transgender people. A few people have brought that up. And
Definitely behind the times.
I know transgender people who like this movie.
Same.
I don't know. It's interesting because this movie doesn't delve that much into Buffalo Bill's backstory and who he really is.
Right,
yeah, go ahead.
There's a point where Lecter literally says he's not transgender, but he thinks he is. He really just hates himself, and he thinks that's what being transgender is.
And that
could
be
through Lecter's diagnosis. That's not really.
Yeah, that could be the case because Hannibal Lecter is supposed to be a genius who knows everything.
Right.
But at the same time, you wonder, is he really a genius who knows everything? And also, there's a history of people not being believed, the medical community not believing who they are and rejecting them and stuff. But other than all of that, it's a great movie. I didn't even mention the score is fantastic. There's one.
Yeah. I have to touch on the score, I'm sure.
Yeah. James Howard.
Howard Shore.
Howard Shore. Thank you.
Went on to score the Lord of the Rings.
He scored the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, wow.
He scored Scorsese. It's hard to believe a movie that you've watched movies that you haven't heard his music in.
Absolutely, yeah. There's the scene where Hannibal Lecter's escaping from his cage, where all the FBI people are sort of walking in slow motion, and his score just really elevates that scene and the whole movie in general. Yeah, and it's endlessly quotable. This is one of the most quotable movies. It's sometimes misquoted. I think "Hello, Clarice" is one of the lines that actually isn't in the movie, or maybe it's "Good evening, Clarice." I don't know, but I'm sure you guys we could talk about favorite quotes at some point too during this.
That should almost be a segment for this podcast.
Yeah,
I
be
split
down
that.
for
Yeah.
that. Let's start today.
Hey,
Yeah, here's my trivia question for you about this movie. How many Academy Awards did this win?
Ooh.
5.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now. I can
Yeah,
scroll
let
down
me-
and find out.
Yeah. 5. It won all 5 of the major Academy Awards, and
Really?
only 3
Oh
of the
yeah,
movies.
Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress,
I was gonna
Best
ask you.
Adapted Screenplay.
Wow.
I was gonna
Yeah.
ask you if you knew that, but as a teen, what are the other 2 movies that have done that? I guarantee you, there's one you won't know, but
Citizen
Oh,
Kane.
I don't know. Yeah,
not that one. No, that movie wasn't that acclaimed at the time.
probably some Scorsese movie like Casino or Goodfellas,
Is
God.
it? So
Godfather 2.
What'd you say, Nick?
Paddington.
sorry if somebody already mentioned it. It says it's still the only horror film to win Best Picture.
I think that's still correct. Yeah.
Probably.
That's insane. That's just tells you it just stands the test of time. Holy
Yeah.
God.
It's so beloved for being a horror movie. The other one is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and the other one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
I mean, it's based on a book, so you got best adapted screenplay,
Sure,
best
yeah.
actor and actress, director.
For
and
Nicholson and what's her
Cratchit, I
name who
forget.
played Nurse Ratched? Yeah.
Yeah. And the other ones, It Happened One Night. Anyways,
Anyway.
Okay.
I love this movie, and let's get some initial thoughts from Molander.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen this movie many times throughout my life. I don't know when first time I saw it was, but I know my mom has always been a fan of this movie, so she probably introduced it to me in my teen years. And I watched it with her last night for the podcast. And yeah, this movie's great. It's such a good movie. Like they say a lot of times, like show don't tell in storytelling. And this movie does a good job of like the opposite. Like it tells you things and doesn't show you and lets you fill in the blanks with the most horrific thing you can imagine. Like when Clarice and Chilton are going down to when she's about to meet Lecter for the first time, and he shows her that picture of like what happened the last time he like got hold of some nurse. And
I love that we don't.
Yeah.
yeah, and you
He
just
was-
see
and
her
he-
face
Yeah.
react to the picture, and you don't see the picture at all. You just fill it in with your imagination, and
that's great.
It's just gonna be great every time because there's never gonna be like an image that you get used to when you're watching this movie. You know what I mean? Like you watch Friday the 13th, you see an arrow come up through Kevin Bacon's neck, and it's like really gruesome and brutal and whatever. But like, it's a little less cool the second time, the third time, the fourth time. You know what I mean? But the Silence of the Lambs, it lets you fill in the blanks with your own imagination. It's so horrifying. And then he just says like they managed to reset her jaw or something like that, and it just gives you shudders. Like
that's fucked up.
this movie is so good at that. And you never see a kill scene at all in this movie. Like several people die in this movie, and you never see anyone die on screen. And that's rare for a horror movie.
Yeah.
I mean, usually that's the draw of a lot
kill
of horror
shot.
movies, is those kill shots. Yeah. And this one manages to be, I mean, arguably the most successful award-wise horror movie there's ever been. And there's no kill shots.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill is the only kill shot you get.
Mm.
Bill.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and you still don't even really.
You
I
don't
mean, you
see
see
him.
her
You don't see.
shoot,
Yeah.
and then you see him on the
It's in,
ground.
it happens in the
you
dark
know?
and it comes up. But I would
Right.
agree that you do see him die on screen.
Sure.
You see his
Yeah.
lights go out on screen.
You see the one villain die, and then you see the other villain get away. And,
That's another fantastic scene when she kills Buffalo Bill.
right. Yeah,
Holy shit.
that whole bit in the dark with night vision and this movie's just beautiful. And I love too, one little thing that I love, the where they're doing the autopsy on the girl, and you hear that camera in the background, and that it's just this really loud sound. It's like, what was this? The 80s, the 90s, early 90s,
Early 90s.
really loud, like crime scene camera. And it's like, and you hear like charging back up or whatever, and it like punctuates the scene. Like they'll have a line and then this camera sound, and a line and this camera sound, and it really like drives that scene, almost as much as the score does the rest of the movie.
Is it the night vision? Is it the night vision that's powering up?
No, like when they find a body, when they get a body out of the river, and they're going to dissect it or do the autopsy or whatever, and figure out, how she was killed, and find whatever clue. The scene where she finds the moth in the girl's throat.
Yeah.
Like throughout that scene, there's a guy taking pictures, and the camera sound like really punctuates the whole scene. There's like
okay,
you hear it like 7 or 8 times.
The sound design, this sound editing, really,
yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff like that, and there's so much. Like, you're introduced to Hannibal Lecter as this diabolical killer, and he's like already in jail. Like, there's this whole other story that we didn't get to see, and it just leaves you wondering, like, who caught that guy? What did that guy do? And it tells you a little bit, but not really. And then, of course, we have some shows and other prequels and stuff that go into it later on after this movie. But this movie by itself was, and I guess the book was willing to just have that character just exist with very little backstory to her. And I think that's just bold. And I don't know the books. I don't know if like Red Dragon or Manhunter was a book before Silence of the Lambs, or if it was a prequel after that. I don't know.
We should just touch on the prequels later on.
Sure.
I'm curious what you guys think if you've seen them.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, this movie is fucking great, and I love it. Anthony Hopkins is great. Jodie Foster is great. I've seen this movie, I don't know, 20, 30 times throughout my life. I never put 2 and 2 together until last night that Ted Levine, who plays Buffalo Bill, is like in a bunch of other movies I've seen.
A whole bunch of stuff you've seen. Yeah, a whole lot of stuff.
He's usually like a cop or a military guy or some authority figure. And the first thing I thought of is he's like the sergeant or captain or whatever on Monk.
That's it.
Yeah.
I dated a girl who watched a lot of Monk, and every time I'd see him on screen, I just hear "Goodbye Horses" in the back of my head.
And what got it was his voice. He's got a distinctive voice where like his lips are stapled together at the corners. Like, it's weird.
That's a pretty good Ted Levine, yeah. Is your nipple pierced, Molander?
Great. What?
Do you have a nipple piercing too?
That's a different podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, everybody's great in the movie. I can't think of a bad performance, honestly. And yeah, this movie's great. I love it. Let's continue. Who hasn't gone yet? Let's say Knack.
All right. Well, I'll say that I'll start with that. There's a lot of your faces in this fucking movie. Like we know we've seen Scott Glenn in a number of things. Fucking whether it's Stick and Daredevil or other. I know I've seen him in a couple, like probably cop movies.
Oh yeah, shit.
At least.
Yep. Never put that together.
The Leftovers. He's the senior Garvey in The Leftovers.
Fucking that. Okay, that's it. That's it. Yep. Fucking. Chris Isaac is in this movie. Chris Isaac, who fucking like, I'm gonna I'm gonna plug a YouTube video in fucking Discord of Chris Isaac's Wicked Games, like from the early '90s, because I catch this guy in movies and I can only think I can only go back to fucking the chorus and things in this song. Anyway, Chris Isaac is in it. Fucking, I even recognized the TV news anchor who was telling, alerting the story of, doing the broadcast of the senator pleading for her daughter's life to the Buffalo Bill using her name a bunch. The TV anchor man I recognized from fucking. Let me see here. I'm gonna try to say his name right. Oba Babatunde. He's he was in fucking Black Dynamite. He was and then he was
I thought I recognized that guy. Yeah.
He was the dean in How High. How High.
Oh,
Fred Willard? I remember him in.
Isn't that Fred Willard?
No.
The Dean in How High? Oh,
yes.
Oh. Yep. I'm getting my people confused. Yep.
Anyway, yeah, I fucking there's just a stacked fucking cast in this movie right off the bat. I mean, Anthony Hopkins has fucking is a master at micro emotion. Do you know what I mean? Like you only have to twinge a certain portion of his face, just barely a fraction of his fucking face, to go from one emotion to another, and he does that well between the scenes of like the first scene we see him in with fucking Starling. He keeps his eyes pretty much the same, but he's making all these different emotions with his mouth and his jaw, his jaw.
Yeah.
Fucking, and then opposite that, the scene where he's got the mask on and he's revealing fucking fake info to the senator and the team, talking to the senator. He's like, by the way, love your suit. Like, he's using his eyes it seems like he's using his eyes because he's got a mask on throughout that whole scene. Just emphasizing on fucking Anthony Hopkins as a legend. He's a goddamn legendary actor.
His vocal tones too convey quite a bit.
Yeah. That goes along with it for sure. Good call.
I don't know if you guys know this, but he made the choice not to blink at all during this movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. You definitely noticed if you look for it for sure. Yo, that man, he looks like a shark. You know what I'm saying?
He looks like a predator. Like he just
the truest form. I would be terrified if I was in a room with that man. You know what I'm saying? Like,
see here.
Yeah, he's an absolute legend.
I heard that he was dating Martha Stewart at the time, I think, and she broke up with him because she couldn't get this character.
That was stupid, Mark.
Yeah, you fucked up. He's fucking horrifying in this role. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
menacing. That's the word.
I love the lighting. The lighting in this movie is done well. When he Lecter's approaching Starling behind the window in the cell. Just really well produced fucking movie all around.
Do you guys know about the camera trick when Clarice is talking to Lecter?
Which time?
Like basically anytime they're talking to her.
Just the increase in close-ups.
Not that actually. What they do is when someone is talking to Clarice, like when the camera's fixed on Hannibal Lecter, it's fixed directly on him. So you see Clarice's point of view straight on, but when you see Clarice, the camera's a little bit tilted. It's a little bit off.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I remember hearing that. Yeah.
I did not pick up on that.
And I didn't pick up on that either. You might subconsciously pick up on it.
Right, yeah.
The reason
you're not
for
supposed
it,
to, yeah.
Yes, the reason is so that you empathize with Clarice more.
Right.
Okay.
So that you as the audience have an adversarial across the table relationship with Viller. Right? Because you're looking straight at him.
I don't know about adversarial, but you're closer to being in her perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
This movie, I love the use of close-ups in this movie because it really put, like, not only is it like putting you in the seat of Clarice, but it like also is like legitimately putting you in her seat because it's asking you to judge Hannibal Lecter. He's like looking you in the face, like trying to trick you and make you feel a certain way about him. And I think that that's really effective. You know what I mean? Especially when he's like being somewhat pleasant. You know what I mean? Like you feel like he's being pleasant. It almost feels like a reprieve of some kind after, you know, knowing how terrible of a person he is and watching him bite half a man's face off. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't know. I think it's done really well. I think it was a smart move to just push the camera right in that man's face. Plus, I mean, it's Hopkins. You know what I mean? If anybody's going to deliver on something like that, it's going to be him.
Yeah. Sophisticated serial killers are always so charming. I gotta admit it.
It's like half the game.
When they're polite, yeah.
And overall initial thoughts are just I love coming back to this movie. It does get kind of better every time I watch it. So
It does.
I mean, like we talked about fucking Howard Shore and can continue to say good things about this movie. It will hold up for quite a while.
Absolutely.
Jeff.
Yeah. So funny story. I went to rent this movie on YouTube like I do with most of the movies that I watch for this club. And it was free on YouTube. And I was like, fuck yeah. And then got like a chunk of the way into it before like picking up on the fact that it was heavily edited for TV-14.
Oh.
Unacceptable.
For this movie club.
That scene with Miggs.
There was like multiple times where I was like, because I didn't pick up on it at first, but like the editing, there was such bad editing. Like it would just like fade from one scene to another for like no fucking reason, like mid conversation. I'm like, I do not remember the editing in this movie being this terrible, and it's because they edited it to
just freaking out, like what the fuck is happening?
Bullshit edited it.
Yeah.
Dude, it was just so it's kind of hard for me to talk about the things that I usually talk about, like the editing and the shots and shit. I'm just gonna talk about. Obviously, the acting in this movie is insane. I feel like we're all going to touch on that. I think that's important because, good God, is the acting in this movie fucking phenomenal. This movie, it has to be carried by the people who are playing the leads, and they 100% nail it in every way, shape, and form. I love Clarice Starling so much, and I love Jodie Foster's portrayal of her. I think you can see so many things coming out of her in every scene that she's in. Like you can see her being scared, and you can see her trying to be strong and like be courageous, and you can see her like trying to fight Lecter. And I think it's really awesome showing her like standing up and like, you know what I mean? Like not letting him just beat her down. I also think the movie likes to show in a lot of ways just where she stands in the world that she's in. Like we get a lot of scenes with her around just male cops or around just male FBI agents. One thing I noticed in the opening scene of the movie when she's like walking through the offices to go meet with Jack is just how short she is compared to everybody else. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah. When she gets in the elevator with all the giant dudes.
Yeah, but like not even just there, like just the way that she's shot and the people that she's put up against, like walking down the hallway, it's like she looks so small in comparison to everybody else. I love and hate. I can never remember his name. Chilton? Is it Chilton?
Yeah.
Yep.
I love how his character's acted. I think it's done well, but I hate his character so much because he's such a fucking sleaze.
Who's that guy from? Because he plays a slimy fuck in other things too.
The only other thing I can think of with him was there was a TV show about a high school in the 90s called Boston Public, I believe it is, and he was like the assistant principal, and he was an asshole. That's the only other thing I can think of.
He was also Dr. Chilton in Red Dragon.
Yeah.
Okay. I know we're going to talk about the prequels in a bit here, but I'm going to mention one really quick, and that's Hannibal, NBC's Hannibal. Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh my god.
Because I watched the shit out of that show, and I loved him as Hannibal. And the one thing that I think carries over between this portrayal and that portrayal is in both, they both look like sharks to me. They look like sharks in human clothing. Like their eyes look dead in a way, and they look violent, and they look in control at all times. Like it's just, I could have this movie on mute and see him on screen, and that would be terrifying enough. You know what I mean? Like that's just phenomenal. I have to agree with Joe. I don't know, because serial killers are dumb, man. I listen to a lot of true crime shit. Serial killers are idiots. Okay, one thing I do want to touch on. So we see Hannibal Lecter do some pretty terrible things in this movie, but I don't think any of them feel as terrible as seeing Buffalo Bill beat the shit out of that girl in the back of that van.
Yeah.
That feels so brutal when you watch it. And like, we later see a man get like hung up like Jesus Christ on the outside of a cage, and that doesn't feel as brutal as just those hits in the back of that van. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and I think it's his method makes it more brutal. Like that he like tricks her into being a kind and generous human being and helping a guy out, and then beats the shit out of her. Like
he's like, what are you?
Makes it so much more brutal to me.
Well, I don't know if Jeff, if it didn't show the scene later, or just shortly after that, in the in the version you saw, it's also the very cringe moment where he's cutting her shirt, stripping her shirt and then caressing her back. Like that was in the version I had.
Yeah, I just want to say that if they had the scene where the guy is kind of filleted up on the cage, then I mean, what didn't they edit out?
Yeah.
Like if they
or when he's like beating the police guy with his club, that's too like
did
just the way that.
Okay.
Well, I didn't watch the YouTube edit, so I don't. But
no, I mean, did they show it or was it off screen in the real version?
Well, it was in the real version. It's like you see Lecter like standing over the camera, swinging the club.
That way in my version too, yeah.
That just evil look on his face. I feel like blood all over his mouth.
I mean, they definitely put out the semen throwing part, right?
Well, so here's the thing. I wanted to touch on that because it's fucking hilarious.
No fucking way.
Did they like substitute it for chocolate syrup or something?
So they cut the Spider-Man moment, right? So they cut the actual Spider-Man, and then they cut to her, and they like edited it off of her face, so she's just wiping her face for no reason.
Oh,
right.
You didn't get it in every edit. So in some edits, her face is just covered in goo, and then in some edits, it's fine, and she's just wiping her face for no fucking reason.
Wait, what do you mean some edits? Is there multiple PG?
How many edits did you watch?
Oh no, I'm meaning like scene to scene, like.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, like in some scenes, it's edited out. You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
It's really funny. It's like it feels like the poor guy who had to edit it just went into overdrive. He's like, I think I got it all. I don't know. I can't tell. I've been staring at semen for 3 days trying to get it all out of this fucking scene.
It's fucking everywhere.
Oh man.
That's also a bad hairdresser's day.
Yeah, that's one thing that's not on the IMDb trivia is what they actually used. But.
Jesus.
But yeah, I don't know. I obviously I love the fuck. It's impossible not to like this movie. I feel this movie's just too good, dude. It's really good. It's just front to back. once again, I would love to comment on certain things about it had I not watched a garbage edit of it. Like, I would love to talk about like the
If
editing
I don't
shit.
like, do you still have access to your Paramount?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I watched it on Paramount
I don't
Plus.
know if I could have watched it on Paramount. Fuck.
Yep. Yep.
Not that I trust Paramount. It's the worst streaming service on the fucking planet Earth. But, dude, it's
Yeah,
so
it's not
bad,
great.
bro.
It's not the first service I go to look, but
Dude,
it
I've been
was
trying to
on
watch
there.
Star Trek on there.
Well,
could
and
do an
I
entire
like, I think
complain
I
about
went
Star
on
Trek.
Prime,
Mhm.
and Prime said, "Oh, you could watch this with Paramount Plus," and I was like, "Oh, I'll do that." So
Dude, I
Prime
just
just tells you sometimes where else to go.
Yeah, I've just
Interesting.
been having bad luck with movies. I just tried to watch Perfect Blue and I could not find the language that I wanted, and I checked like 4 different places. It was super frustrating. And then I had to deal with this garbage edit. But yeah, I don't know. I like the music in this movie a lot. I like I like that the movie isn't afraid to get brutal. It's like calm and then it's not calm. You know what I mean? I think
It's
that
very
that's
reserved, yeah.
yeah, like it's quiet and it's calm and it's people talking. Like even the scene with Buffalo Bill, like you feel the music building up and you know that it's coming, but even still, like it's just like so aggressive so quickly. You know what I mean? And that pays off so well that it's not often, it's not all over the place, and when it hits, it's just like boom, it hits. Like seeing Hannibal Lecter go off on those 2 guards is bananas. The look on his face, dude, he's just smashing that guy's head with a club. It's like holy fuck.
Oh, it's brilliant
So
how
look
he
at-
escapes too.
Yeah.
The Wikipedia mentions how Jonathan Demme, the director, was real specific about how he wanted Howard Shore to do the music, so it goes along with all the other elements simultaneously, like lighting and choreography and the costumes and everything. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's like really, really well thought out composing, to be honest. So again, going back to fucking Howard Shore being a goddamn legend, but
Well, the score it's strangely like melancholic. It's almost sweet at some points. It's just it's good music. I have a question for you guys. What do you think about the title of the movie?
it works. It works.
I like it.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the title of the book?
I think so.
Yeah. I think it works. I mean, the central theme that they don't hit on until quarters of the way movie, but it's she has the whole conversation with Lecter about the lambs and how he says that she wants the silence of the lambs and all that. I think it makes sense once you get into the movie, and it's such an iconic movie, and everybody just knows that it's such an iconic movie that the title almost doesn't matter at that point. Like it doesn't need to tell you much about the movie.
I'm glad
Everybody just knows.
I'm
at
glad
this
it's
point.
not called like Hannibal Lecter's Killing Spree or
Yeah, right.
It deserves a sort of sophisticated poetic title.
Sure.
I didn't pick up on this, but there is sort of an allegory with what's the girl who was captured and down in that well. I don't know her name.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Catherine.
She saves that sheep-looking dog and carries it out of the house at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone even one of the officials tried to take it from her. She's like, no.
Yeah.
Just keeping that dog close, even after hurting it.
Yo, she was clever. That was smart. I like that scene with her with the bucket and the bone. I thought that was good.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the true horror was. Is a lot of her scenes down in that well.
Right.
Like
And
the camera work and fucking see the panning up to see all the
bloody claw.
cracking,
Yeah, that's
fingernail just sets her off.
amazing.
Yeah.
And we're like,
They
you
cut the
realize,
nails out of.
and she realizes what has happened here before, and you see her learning that, figuring that out first time. It must be the first time that a light has shone on that wall while she's been looking at it. So it's great.
And it's brilliant because they showed us the close-up of the dead woman's fingers. Otherwise, you would not have made that connection.
Yeah.
I think you would.
Yeah, you probably would. Yeah, you're right. But it helps solidify that connection.
Yeah.
They cut that out of the edit that I watched.
Oh, really?
Bloody marks on
It's
the
one of
wall.
the things they cut out. Yeah, the fingernails. Because
Why don't
let
you
me
just
tell
be
you, I was
why don't
looking
you be a
forward to that.
14-year-old, Jeff?
Huh?
You should just be a 14-year-old, and then you can watch the real version.
Dude, here's the thing: is out of all the scenes in this movie, that's the one that sticks with me the most. Like that's the part of the movie when the first time I watched it that made me feel sick in my belly a little bit was like seeing those fingernails on the wall. Like that fucked me up, bro. People clawing out of there so hard they're ripping their fingernails off. Like,
Same.
woo.
Yeah, that shit was really fucked up.
So
Yeah.
what was his MO was? I mean, Clarice establishes at some point, right before she catches Bill, that he's trying to sort of make their skin loose, right?
Correct.
So why did he
Right.
dispose of all the other girls? Is that known? Do we know that?
No idea.
Okay.
Well, he cut off the pieces that he wanted and then disposed of the rest.
I guess, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I thought the thing with the moths was a little much. Like the whole moth growing in her throat and shit. That is not when you see Buffalo Bill on screen and when you see him doing Buffalo Bill things, tucking moth larvae into people's throats before dumping them specifically in rivers just doesn't feel right when I see him. Maybe that's just me.
No. That's the whole coming back to you saying the criminals are fucking stupid, because that's what set me off. Is like you've killed a number of women, and yet you're giving out this huge giveaway of a moth that's only found in fucking Asia. Like putting out a pretty big hint for fucking people to catch on to. You'd like,
Right.
He's not that smart.
No. Well, they say they want to get caught, so maybe that's it.
I see. Okay.
Well,
Good,
and then
you're right. You're right. Yeah.
the moth led them
It's
to
a
a
calling
different
card.
guy, though.
Is that right?
True.
Yeah,
True.
the moth led the FBI to that Jamie Gum.
That's
like a different
that is Ted
date.
Levine, James Gum.
Yeah. I think
That
he
is-
was just
that-
using someone else's house to conduct his serial killer.
Right, remember, because he's found in Littman's house.
And he had a connection to her.
But they had like
Yeah.
they show the guy's picture that they think they're going after, and it's a totally different.
It doesn't.
guy.
Yeah, because that's what I was gonna mention. That sketch does not resemble
No.
Ted Levine at all. Like it tries, but I don't know how they couldn't just make an actual sketch. But no, Ted Levine is credited as James Gum.
Oh yeah, I see that. Okay.
But yeah, like just a huge giveaway there. With the moth and everything. But yeah, he was staying in Mrs. Littman's house. She was the
She was the body in the bathtub. In the basement,
she was.
right?
Yeah, she was the one decomposing in the bathtub. Because the first,
Gross.
Yeah, that was
victim,
Federica,
right?
fucked up shit.
I think it was the first victim, Federica, but the third body to be found. It was that's the pathway that of course Starling was taking to track him down. Which is, I mean, I can't name a bad scene in this movie, because that also stands out as one of them. Is just the shot, him letting Starling into the house and getting shots of like the butterfly picture and fucking her seeing the moth and just coming to it. Just every nail is being bitten in that scene. I swear to God.
Well, the movie goes out of its way to make her seem so small. You know what I mean? So it feels like she's in danger when she's in danger. But the movie also shows us that she's capable too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, she gives the appearance of being, well, not just the appearance. There is during that night vision scene, she's shaking, she's trembling.
Mm-hmm.
But that adds to the whole scene, because almost through the whole movie, Starling does seem shaken, just like in one way or another, just being kind of set off by what Crawford said. Crawford said about trying to shove off the sheriff and shit, and she's not entirely really comfortable throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
But
when she has that little short conversation with Crawford, where like he apologizes and she's like, "It matters," like these other guys look to you for leadership. It matters what you do, and it's never really resolved. Like it doesn't go further than that in the conversation.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
She is genuinely strong. She does give off the impression that she is incredibly vulnerable at some moments.
I would argue at some points during her interviews with Lecter, she looks pretty calm and collected and in her element.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Like, especially when she's like talking, like when he gives her the towel and shit, and she's like sitting next to the TV and they're talking, like, at certain points during her conversations with him, she seems very confident and very in her element in comparison to like when she's having to deal with those cops and all that bullshit. No, Jodie Foster just kills in this movie, man. Everybody kills in this movie. It's just a good movie, dude.
Yeah. They really do.
I wish I hadn't missed the tuck. Release the tuck. Cut.
I have one.
Yeah.
I have
Go
one
ahead.
like small qualm about that night vision scene, because Ted Levine or Buffalo Bill has a gun on her at the time. So why doesn't he shoot her?
It comes down to that very, very quick moment. It's meant to be believed that he has to cock the gun in order to shoot her.
And that's
And
what
so
she
you hear him
hears.
pull back. As soon as she hears the hammer pull back, she turns around and blasts him.
Now, why didn't he cock it?
Well, yeah, it's amazing.
In the
how
other
he doesn't
5
get that
minutes
shot
that
off.
she was wandering around, I don't know, but yeah.
I mean, I guess in the moment that kind of takes me out of the scene, but after the fact, I can think of some reasons. Like maybe he wanted to dispose of her in a quiet way. He wanted to like put the gun up to her so that she would not scream and deal.
I
with
mean,
her
he could have just knocked her over the head too.
That's true. I mean, he's got night vision goggles. Yeah.
Yeah, he does some stupid shit in this movie.
Well, I mean,
Which maybe goes back to what you were saying before, Sue, that like serial killers are not all geniuses.
No, they're not, man. If there's anything I've learned from all the shit that I've read or listened to about serial killers, it's that the vast majority of them are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It's wild that they get away with shit the way they do.
Do you guys know who Buffalo Bill's based on in real life?
No.
I would guess that.
Ed Gein, yeah, that's right. And a
Oh,
little bit of Ted
yeah.
Bundy, yeah.
It's a very brief and shocking moment where they actually show the suit, what he's pieced together so far. It's hard to look at. It's real difficult to look at.
Yeah, that's very Ed Gein.
It's quite comfortably brief. It's like very
seems to be the inspiration for a lot of horror movie villains.
There's three others
for like Texas
three
Chainsaw.
other big ones. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What's the third one?
I can't remember.
Psycho.
Oh, Psycho.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I suppose with the mom obsession, that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He would. Yeah, he probably would have loved this movie if only he were still with us.
if only.
Are you guys talking about me?
Where'd you go?
Had to grab some water. Sorry, guys.
Oh. No, we were talking about Ed Gein.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm. That's about me. Yeah.
Your skin lamp. You got a skin lamp over there.
And then just do a creepy laugh like that, and that really sells it. So.
I think we've heard everyone's just overall thoughts.
Yeah, we all kind
want
of
to go
gave
into some more specific topics.
We all kind of gave our initial thoughts, and it just we couldn't stop talking about it.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to add, honestly. You guys covered just about all the bases. This movie is fucking phenomenal. The acting is amazing. Obviously, Jodie is fucking killer right off the bat. Anthony Hopkins, I mean, he's a classic, right? Like anything he's in, he's great. I did want to cover a couple of the favorite quotes that I had of his. He says he covets about Buffalo Bill. I thought that was fucking great.
Yeah.
I thought I had another page. I guess not. Sorry.
And like the amount of stuff that Lecter puts together with so little information.
So good.
Yeah.
And that's part of the movie that I really loved was just how much of a like murder mystery it is, right? Like he's giving
Sure.
these little tidbits and like kind of being
you're trying to
tricky.
like solve the puzzle alongside
Yes.
Clarice. Yeah.
He's giving her like these little tidbits and like being sneaky about his word play and stuff. And man, it just what a fucking classic.
Yeah, I'm really glad the first selection of this theme was a non-supernatural horror.
Yes.
Sure.
Really happy for that because they're good ones are hard to find.
It's so grounded in reality, which is fucking crazy for a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say hard to find. Just
the reality, which is every other person's a serial killer, but yes.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Well, and I want to touch on that too because I have a bit of a theory. So this movie comes out in 1991, right? And it wins all these awards, and it's like the only horror movie to win this many awards all in 1 year, you know. And I think at least a little bit it owes that. I mean, it's a beautiful movie. I'm not trying to, you know, disparage this movie that I love or anything like that, but I think that the audience and critical reaction to this movie is a bit of like a sigh of relief after the 80s horror genre and where it went. Because in the 80s, like we have like rock star horror movies, right? We have 5 Michael Myers movies. We have 5 Nightmare on Elm Street movies. We have 8 Friday the 13th movies, right? And all these like Child's Plays and Texas Chainsaws and Leprechaun and shit. Like the horror genre goes off the fucking in the 80s. And I don't get me wrong, I love all that stuff. I love most of that stuff. But I think this movie comes out in 1991 and it's just a lot more refined of a movie, you know? And I think that would have been I think it's received the way it's received because it's coming out after the 80s. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it was made the way it was as a response, not that it was received.
Yeah.
But I think that 100% tracks. That makes sense.
We definitely leaned way more towards the psychological in the 90s in comparison to just slasher shit.
Yeah.
I could definitely see this being the tipping point too, because.
But didn't all those franchises continue into the 90s?
Oh yeah, they're continuing to this day, buddy.
Because they're cash cows.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Well, and there's, I mean, Halloween has had the last few years. Friday the 13th has been wrapped up in legal shit. Nightmare on Elm Street had a failure of a reboot about 10 years ago, maybe a little more.
I did like What's His Nuts as Freddy though.
And also, this movie has been prequeled and sequeled, and has it been requeled yet? No.
Well, out there with the Hannibal show. With Hannibal,
there's the Hannibal show. There was the Hannibal Rising prequel, where I think he was a young adult. Okay. And I only saw that once and don't remember liking it. But Red Dragon is very good, and Hannibal I think is pretty good.
See, I was watching a little bit of Hannibal. It just autoplayed after I watched Silence of the Lambs, and I thought it was terrible.
Yeah,
the movie or the show?
The movie.
Okay, yeah. I don't really remember liking. I kind of remember liking Red Dragon, but I watched most of the sequels, if not all of them. I forgot to watch Manhunter for this. I still need to do that. But
yeah,
I mean
really, what makes Hannibal to me is Gary Oldman.
And that's the TV show.
No, the movie Hannibal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Gary Oldman in it is just insane, and just like he always is in everything he's in. And then obviously Hopkins as well is good.
Ray Liotta.
Ray Liotta. Yeah.
Ray Liotta's brain getting cooked on a fucking hot plate.
Dude.
Wasn't he was in Dragon? What was that guy's name?
Ray
William
Fiennes?
Peterson.
Oh,
No.
Rafe Nathaniel
died.
Twistleton Vickenham Fines, you mean?
Philip Seymour Hoffman. That's who I'm thinking of. He was in Red Dragon.
Oh, and Red Dragon. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah. Edward Norton was in that flick too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, and he was
Yep.
very good. I like Ed Norton. He's good.
I do
How
too.
close do any of these movies or TV shows come to Silence of the Lambs?
Not very close. I
I think
think
Red Dragon comes the closest of, but it's still pretty different.
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well,
If
that
we're
won't-
talking just overall vibe, I think I agree with Molander. But if we're talking about quality and what I enjoy more, I think the show, at least the first season or two, was pretty fucking great. And I think Mads Mikkelsen's Hannibal was phenomenal.
Yeah,
personally.
he was great. I watched, I think, a season or two of that, and kind of fell off it. I don't remember where.
You don't need to hop back on him. I'll tell you right now. Like first season or
Okay.
two are very good, but it just kind of went really fan pandery and
Yeah.
felt like fan
Well, and
fiction.
It kind of, at one point, it felt like they were just kind of doing the same thing over and over. Like someone would piss off Hannibal and he'd kill him and feed him to people. And
Yeah.
they just played that over and over in this show.
But I mean, I think that's like Hannibal carries it, right? Like Hannibal and whatever cop is playing against him is
Right.
really all you need for good Hannibal fiction, you know?
Yeah. Every time I watch at least Silence of the Lambs, it definitely makes me want to read some Thomas Harris and some
Yeah.
Hannibal. I would definitely want to read some Hannibal stories. I would dive into that for sure.
Well, should we
Yeah.
talk about ratings?
Yeah, I mean, 10 out of 10, obviously. I think that's across the board, probably. Besides,
yeah. 10
you know.
for me. Yes.
yeah.
10 for me.
Yeah, I give this one a 10. For sure. And that's rare for me.
Right? Hey,
Like,
we got him, folks.
I base it on like would I recommend this to, how many people would I recommend this to? And I'd recommend it to literally anyone.
Yeah.
I'd
Joe, what
give
do
it-
you
Like 10 or over.
I'd give it an 8 out of 10 because of the transphobia, homophobia, and because it's FBI propaganda.
Sure.
Definitely
Propaganda.
FBI propaganda.
Yeah.
Spray painted fat ACAB across the front of this DVD case.
Well, one interesting thing about that is that it was made with full cooperation of the FBI, and they said they thought they did it because they want more female recruits,
Oh,
which is
Sure.
interesting.
it's kind of
That makes
weird.
sense. That's a little cringy, but yeah.
But
that
it
makes
doesn't
sense.
really glamorize her role. Like at the end of the
No.
movie, she just gets a handshake and a cake
Right.
with the FBI seal on it.
That seems like
I
some
don't-
90s shit, too.
It's a very 90s, very American
It is, yeah.
serial
Yeah.
killer movie. But it's excellent, so I think 8 is good.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to agree with Joe. I'd probably give it closer to a 9, like an 8.5, like 8.5.
Okay. I think those are pretty
Um,
valid criticisms, right?
Yeah, have you guys seen Manhunter at all? Not like the
I've
movie, but the
not.
show.
No.
Obviously.
Not the movie, but the what?
There's
The
a show.
Yeah, on Netflix called Oh no, Mindhunter.
Oh, Mindhunter, yes.
Mindhunter.
Yeah, that show's
yeah.
great.
That's much more in line with what I want to see depicted. Because
Yeah.
it is 100% propaganda for sure. It just reminds me of every movie that's had the military in it, and the military are always the good guys and doing the right thing and fucking
Oh my God.
hoorah. And that
Yeah.
this
Don't even
movie
get me
definitely
started on
has that kind of vibe
Transformers.
to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did anybody else need to vote on that one?
What did Knack say for rating?
Yeah, what do you think?
10.
You said 10, okay.
Oh, I did say 10. Of course, you are mentioning some valid deductions there. All you guys.
You know what? Actually, this movie
Okay.
sucks.
But no,
0 out of 10.
All that aside, I'm keeping my rating 10. I'm still keeping it
Yeah,
10.
I get it.
I did mean to mention I even though the viewer can piece it together where where people are. I did like the setup of the camera shot with the SWAT team in Illinois. The SWAT, but they tag the scene Calumet, Illinois, before the Crawford's crew breaks into that house.
Yeah.
What am I trying to think of? Anyway, and then knowing that even if the viewer knows, I thought it was a well played, because even if you know, never mind. I know where I'm going with that. It was well set up.
I think I know where you're going. Where they set up where it looks like the FBI is about to knock on his door, but then he opens the door and it's Corey's.
Even though the viewer clearly knows James Gum is in Ohio and coming up on
right. Yeah.
Stallings.
Yeah, I like how they did that.
Anyway, but who did everybody else? Did we all get our ratings in?
Yeah.
Believe so. All right, are you guys ready to know what I'm going to pick for our next movie in the series of horror movies that we are doing?
I've been edging all week for this.
Lay it on us.
He told me earlier it was The Lighthouse, so I'm really excited to watch it.
Who told you that?
You did. You don't remember?
I like The Lighthouse. I would, if you pick that, I'm excited to watch it, but I'm not picking that movie. I'm picking 1967's Terrence Young's Wait Until Dark. I kind of doubt you guys would have seen it.
Never heard
Yeah,
of it.
Never heard of it.
Dark.
Stars Audrey Hepburn and Alan Arkin, Richard Crenna, and Ephraim Zimbalist. Audrey Hepburn plays a blind woman, and she is plagued by these criminals who are after something she wants. It is a psychological thriller home invasion movie.
Huh.
Okay.
If you have the opportunity to watch it in complete darkness, you should.
So, like, basically Home Alone with a blind.
And Audrey Hepburn.
That was actually the tagline back in 1967. Yeah.